Metal is loud, rebellious, and the last place most people expect to find faith. Yet some of the biggest names in metal and hard rock, bands who shaped the soundtrack of rebellion, were powered by something deeper, something spiritual, something unshaken. These are the stories of famous secular bands whose members walk the line between heavy music and higher purpose.
Little Betty ate a pound of aspirin.
He was the godfather of shock rock, the man who brought guillotines, snakes, and nightmares to rock concerts. But behind the makeup is a humble, born-again Christian. Alice Cooper rebuilt his life through faith after years of addiction nearly destroyed him. I was the poster boy for everything wrong. And then when I got sober and everything came back to the church, realizing that's where I belonged there. A lot of people say, I came to Christ because of my love of Jesus. I came to Christ because of my fear of God. What makes his story so compelling is the contrast. The same man who built a career on theatrical darkness found his anchor in faith. He still brings the theatrics on stage, but today he says his real mission is to live with purpose and meaning. Shock rock meets salvation. They were labeled satanic. They were blamed for everything under the sun. Tipper Gore and the PMRC pointed fingers. Parents panicked. Churches condemned them. But here's the twist. Guitarist Tony Iommi grew up Catholic and still speaks about his belief in God. And even Ozzy Osbourne, the self-proclaimed Prince of Darkness, once said his faith is what's kept him alive through decades of chaos. Ozzy prays regularly and has spoken openly about his belief in God. Interestingly, many of Sabbath's lyrics, especially in the Ozzy Osbourne era, were actually warnings against evil rather than celebrations of it. The monsters in their music were never meant to be heroes. Faith was never far away. Even in the band that started it all, Black Sabbath may have sounded like darkness, but faith was always closer than critics believed. The most blamed band in metal history had God in the room all along. When people think of Judas Priest, they think of leather, studs, screaming metal, and hellish imagery. Faith is the last thing that comes to mind. Yet Rob Halford, the metal god himself, has spoken openly about being a person of faith since childhood. What makes this story even more layered is that Halford is also openly gay, having come out in 1998. Here's one of metal's most iconic frontmen navigating two worlds that have historically been in deep tension with each other: the church versus the LGBT community. Many would see those two identities as incompatible, even contradictory. Halford has credited faith with helping him through addiction and recovery, even while organized religion has often been hostile toward people like him. He never let that hostility take his faith away. It's a genuinely complex and human story. The metal god dressed in leather and roaring from the stage, quietly carrying a faith that helped keep him alive.
Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this.
Kansas was one of America's great progressive rock and hard rock bands of the 70s, known for epic anthems like Carry On Wayward Son and Dust in the Wind. What most fans don't know is that lead guitarist and primary songwriter Kerry Lifgren converted to Christianity in the late 1970s, a decision that sent shockwaves through the band. His faith began influencing the songwriting on albums like Vinyl Confessions and Drastic Measures, which divided both the band and their fan base. The tension eventually contributed to internal fractures and lineup changes. Lifgren's journey is remarkable because it happened in real time, publicly, inside one of mainstream rock's biggest bands. He didn't leave to join a Christian band. He stayed, wrote from his convictions, and let the chips fall. Faith didn't save Kansas, the band, but it transformed Kansas, the songwriter. He's one of metal's happiest drummers and one of its most outspoken Christians. Despite Maiden's dark and mythological themes, Nico never hides his devotion. Iron Maiden built their career on imagery drawn from history, mythology, and darker corners of human experience. Eddie, their iconic mascot, is hardly a symbol of Sunday school. Yet behind the kit, Nico McBrain has never been shy about where he stands. Whether you have a faith, or whether you believe in Jesus, whatever your God may or may not be, you can still pay forward and still do good. He once said, "My relationship with God keeps me steady through the chaos of touring." That steadiness shows. While touring is notorious for excess and destruction, Nico has remained grounded, joyful, and open about his faith for decades. Even inside one of the greatest metal bands ever, Nico stays true to who he is, with a smile visible from behind the drum kit. King's X formed in the 1980s and quickly built a devoted following with their unique blend of hard rock, progressive metal, and soulful harmonies. What set them apart from virtually every other band on this list is that all three original members, Doug Pinnick, Ty Tabor, and Jerry Gaskill, were Christians from the start, yet they deliberately avoided the Christian music market, choosing instead to compete in the mainstream. They wanted their music to speak for itself without a religious label attached. The irony is that their faith was never hidden. It was woven into their lyrics and interviews openly. King's X essentially did the opposite of most bands on this list. Rather than hiding faith inside a secular band, they hid a secular career inside a band of believers. They remain one of rock's most underrated acts, and one of its most quietly spiritual. If there is one entry on this entire list guaranteed to make jaws drop, it is this one, Slayer. The most aggressively anti-religious band in thrash metal history. Songs like Raining Blood, Hell Awaits, and God Hates Us All built a career on imagery that made even other metal bands uncomfortable. And yet bassist and vocalist Tom Araya is a practicing Catholic. He has spoken about his faith in multiple interviews, acknowledging the obvious tension between his beliefs and his band's content. Araya has described himself as a person who believes in God, while simultaneously performing music that seems to mock everything God represents. He has said, "The lyrics are artistic expression, not personal theology." It is perhaps the most extreme example of the separation between artist and art in rock history. The man screaming blasphemy from the stage goes home and prays.
Searching for the answer, Christ has it comes. Waiting to find the moment the blood must reach his soul. I got pictures of naked ladies, not on the beds.
Known for shocking theatrics and controversy in the 1980s, W.A.S.P became one of the most infamous bands in glam metal history. But behind the blood, fire, and rebellion is a powerful story of transformation. Frontman Blackie, lawless, once a symbol of excess and outrage, eventually turned his life toward Christian faith. He's been vocal in recent years about his rebirth, openly discussing how God changed his life and priorities. Finally got over all the things that I had been taught as a kid. I started to seek my own answers. And when I started to seek my own answers, that's when I started returning to my faith. Lawless has said he no longer performs some of W.A.S.P's most provocative early songs, explaining, "I can't stand in front of God and sing those lyrics anymore." It's one of the most striking turnarounds in metal, from stage shocker to believer. When you think of thrash metal, Megadeth is at the top of the mountain. But behind the ferocity of that guitar work is a fascinating spiritual journey. Frontman Dave Mustaine, once known for violence, addiction, and rage, the drugs weren't doing it. The alcohol wasn't doing it. It would make you feel good for a little while, but that was kind of like peeing your pants on a cold night. Openly embraced Christianity in the early 2000s, a turning point that reshaped his life and even influenced the band's direction. Longtime bassist David Ellefson is also a Christian. He even became a licensed Lutheran minister and co-founded Mega Life Ministries, a satellite of Shepherd of the Desert Church in Scottsdale, Arizona, that connected with fans through music. While Megadeth has always been a secular band, both Mustaine and Ellefson's faith show how Christianity and metal can intersect in unexpected ways. Korn took nu metal to the world stage. Dark lyrics, tortured sound, emotional chaos. But inside this storm were two men searching for light. Guitarist Brian Welch shocked the world when he left the band in 2005, got baptized, and openly declared his Christian faith. His comeback years later completed a powerful transformation arc, proving that faith and heavy music could coexist.
You know what? Jesus loves our souls. He loves our souls kind of like a husband loves his bride.
Bassist Reginald Arvizu, also known as Fieldy, also turned to Christianity to overcome addiction and self-destruction. People got to know, all you got to do is know what Jesus did for you. He died for your sins, died on the cross, and came back 3 days later. And if you ask him into your heart, it's for life. He's going to be with you forever. Their faith didn't sanitize the music. It gave it purpose. Two broken men found the same answer in the most unlikely of places.
The biggest regret for the human race is going to be that we didn't draw closer to Jesus, to the angels, to paradise, to heaven, even as we lived on the earth, because it's available to
From
us.
shock rock to thrash metal, from the Prince of Darkness to the metal god, faith has shown up in the most unexpected places. These are real stories of real people searching for meaning behind the noise. If this surprised you, share it and tell us in the comments which story hit hardest.
Jesus loves our souls. He loves our souls kind of like a husband